Hey guys, Andy here. So this is not the first Nokia phone I've reviewed. I have reviewed a couple in the past. They were actually Windows phones though. One of them supplied by Microsoft's PR team, sounds quite good. They obviously liked the first video and they offered me another phone. Although Windows Phone users didn't like my videos, I got a lot of thumbs down. One of them is probably the only video I've ever done with more thumbs down than thumbs up. But they're both up over 75,000 views, so they were, I don't know if they were popular videos. But to Nokia itself, their history goes quite a long way back, all the way back to 1865 in fact. I've checked up all my facts on Wikipedia, and obviously they weren't doing phones back then, but it was in October of '98 where Nokia overtook Motorola to become the best-selling mobile phone manufacturer in the world. And I guess, we'll remember things like the Nokia 3600, 3650, which were the first ever camera phones. Well, to be honest, in North America in 2003. And I think I had the 3600. It was a good little phone. And it was funny, back then America was a long way behind Europe in phones. I remember going over to America with, I think, the 3600, and even then they were kind of like, that's an amazing phone. And obviously nowadays they're, well, leading the way in some ways. But in 2016 Nokia was sold to HMD Global. But at the moment, I think it's just the brand that they own, really. So HMD Global makes the phone and then slaps a Nokia brand on it. So it's not quite the same as it was, really. This one, the Nokia 5, is £130 new. Now, I actually got this one for £110 from Amazon Warehouse. So I think it was a return. But, I mean, it's in very good nick. You wouldn't particularly know. The only thing I'm not sure, I don't think it didn't have a charging brick in the box of any kind, which I'm not sure is right. I would imagine buying new you would get that, but at the same time it's micro USB. I would imagine most of us have micro USB cables knocking around still. So the actual design, just turn the screen on so that you get a better idea and view of the bezels. The bezels are, I would say, pretty huge. The stats are 68.7% screen to body ratio. That makes them some of the bigger bezels you're ever going to find. If you have an issue with bezels, maybe not the phone for you. I don't so much have an issue. The lower bezel has the buttons that do light up. The fingerprint sensor is on the front and is also the home button, which is kind of weird in some ways. And also it's a little weird because it doesn't actually light up like the others do. But I mean, I guess you know where if the others are lit up, you're hitting the space in the middle. So glass front, aluminium body, and it is, I would say it's a really nice feel to the body. It does feel good in the hand, it feels solid. The buttons are quite clicky, if you can hear. Don't know what mess I'm making on the actual screen there. It has two sort of SIM drawers, as you can see there. One has a nano SIM and one will take a micro SD card, which you might need because it's only 16 gig of storage. But the build quality generally, I think, is really very good, especially for £130 phone. The fingerprint sensor itself is reasonably reliable. There were times actually I'd be pulling it out of my pocket with my other hand and I would turn it on by mistake just because it was reasonably quick and reasonably reliable. If we talk about the actual hardware behind it, it's got a Snapdragon 430 chipset. It's got an octa-core 1.4 GHz Cortex A53 CPU. It's got the Adreno 505 GPU, and as I mentioned, 16 gig of storage and 2 gig of RAM. So the specs, when you read the specs, you're not confused that that's not a budget phone. I mean, a Snapdragon 430, that is their budget end of things. You've got the sort of 400 series is the budget, the 600 series is kind of the mid-range, and then the 800 series is the top-end flagship. So 430, yeah, you're not getting confused there. 1.4 gigahertz. I mean, it's octa-core, but it's Cortex A53. So yeah, none of that screams major power. But you get a 3,100 Geekbench roughly, which I don't think is bad for the price. Having said that, it does bog down a little bit. So when I first booted it up, I think probably in the unboxing, I was a bit sort of, yeah, this is pretty amazing. But I mean, even then, I don't feel like it particularly scrolls perfectly in time with my finger. I feel like it actually lags a little bit behind. I mean, that's perhaps not too bad. What I'd like to do, let's try, we're going to go into YouTube. And we're going to scroll through. I mean, again, that's not too bad. I have just booted this back up because I've not used it for the last day. So I guess it's not had much to deal with because it's pretty freshly booted. So that's not too bad, but still I feel like it, I don't know, can you see how it's not quite following my finger? I mean, not that you'd necessarily expect it to as a budget phone. Let's come out and then let's go over and let's press play on the music. And that wasn't too bad. That was reasonably quick response. Again, maybe because I've just booted it up. When I've been using this through the day, and I mean, we'll try switching back to YouTube, and we'll pick random video. And again, that's all generally. This guy's quite funny. I forget how I came across him, but he's a street performer. He's actually quite an amusing guy. So this is all, it's kind of funny because obviously I'm telling you it's a little bit laggy and a little bit slow at times and doing things. We're just there, I've pressed the home button, but... And actually, to be fair, it's performing quite well. So, I don't know, maybe we'll have another quick crack nearer the end of the video and we'll see, but I'll tell you, really, you have to believe me or not, that there's times where you're going to YouTube and you turn it sideways and it'll kind of... It'll get stuck where you're just seeing part of the screen and then finally it fills the rest of the screen, and then when you finish, same sort of thing, you'll kind of come back, you press back and it'll stop for a few seconds and then it'll put the picture back, then it'll come back to normal, then you go back to home screen. And like I said, there are times I press play on, well, let's try the podcast player. Oh, playback error, so that's not going to work, is it? So it is, at the moment it's running relatively smoothly. So yeah, like I say, you have to trust me that it does start to lag a bit, and it became quite an issue for me, to the point that I thought, actually I'm going to stop using this for the moment and go back to my Pixel. While we've got the podcast open though, let's listen to the speaker.
Professor of Behavioral Ecology at the University of Bristol.
And there might be similarities between some languages, just as there are in the human world, and then there are...
Or a predator either.
And so I think that's the coolest thing of all.
Biology. Redford says the study...
I don't know how well you can hear that, but actually the speaker's pretty good. Again, for a budget phone, but it's not that far off the speaker from my Pixel 2 XL, really. I like the sort of roundedness. It's not too tinny. There's a good quality to it. The volume level is not too bad. It averaged, I think, 87.2 in my test, and just had generally a good overall sound. So the speaker, actually one of its strengths. It also does have NFC, although I haven't used that. I've not installed sort of Android Pay or anything like that, but it does have NFC, which is pretty good for a budget device. So the screen, it's only 5.2 inches, it's IPS LCD, and it's only 720p. So spec-wise, that's not particularly amazing, but actually, I think it looks really good. I think this is maybe not the best image. Maybe the YouTube was better to show it, perhaps. I think we get far too carried away with sort of 1080p and 4K and all that kind of thing. That screen looks really good, and I think it helps with the battery, which we'll come to later. The pixel density is 282 pixels per inch, which isn't too bad. It does have Corning Gorilla Glass, but it doesn't specify which. And its brightness, I got it to go all the way up to 599 lumens, which is pretty good for a budget device. Screens, or the brightness of a screen, is quite often where budget devices can fall down. But this one, 599, that's pretty good. I mean, it's not, I think the Samsungs can get up over 800 these days, or even more. But 599 is not too bad, I thought. So let's talk a little bit about the camera. It is a 13 megapixel f2.0, and it is a solitary lone single camera, so it's not got dual camera. The front facing camera is a 8 megapixel. They're both f2.0, which isn't too bad. The smaller the better. It's not great. I mean, you can get f1.6 I think now. The lower number the better it's going to do in low conditions, really. Low light conditions, sorry. It can film 1080p at 30 frames per second from the back, so that's kind of a minimum you'd expect, I suppose. It's nothing to boast about. It's just, yeah, they hit that criteria. I thought the photos generally were quite good. The colour balance was quite good. There was reasonable detail, and it was reasonable in low light. So all in all, yeah, not too bad. The front-facing camera was similar, was generally acceptable. Let's say acceptable to good, I would say. And the video, I've kind of put in my notes, acceptable video as well. It is a little wobbly. There's no image stabilization, be it optical or electronic, but again, would you expect that for £130? And so you can see that. But again, actually, it's not bad. It's not bad. It is acceptable. You're not going to get laughed at for showing somebody video filmed on the Nokia 5. The camera app, I'll just show you. So again, we're going to come to software in a moment, and it's generally quite stock. And the camera app is sort of stock-ish, but not quite the same. I've compared it to my Pixel 2 XL. It is a little bit different, but it's generally reasonably stock. Connectivity-wise, so I've mentioned it's got NFC. Bluetooth is where I sometimes find devices not struggle, but especially some of the cheaper ones, they don't have maybe a stronger antenna or receiver or whatever. But actually, I had no problems with this. I use Bluetooth a lot in my car, on my bike, at the gym. I don't use wired. There is a 3.5mm connector, but I just don't use it. Everything's Bluetooth these days, and I didn't have any issues at all. There was no stuttering, there was no drop, streaming. It was fine. It was good. So on to the actual software. Let's just show you. This is running system. Oh, it does say that. So Android version 8.1. Android security patch level 1st of July. That's as up to date as you're going to get. I mean, we are now in August, but it's only the 5th of August. My Pixel's not had the update security patch for August just yet, so I wouldn't have expected the Nokia 5 to. And it had that straight away, so I unboxed, I think, I don't know if it was a week or 2 weeks ago, so yeah, pretty up to date. Well, I say it had that straight away. The patches came through straight away. The OTA updates came through for Android 8.1 and the security patches, and you have to do them one after the other. So out of the box, it had, I don't know, maybe March. So I had to download 4 or 5 different updates, and you literally have to download and patch each one. So it took about an hour for me to get it patched up to date. But that is, like I said, that's pretty impressive. It is up to date. So and everything else in the settings should look very familiar, because it is very much stock Android. Even the launcher is quite stock. And to its credit, it's still, I mean, you can see some jitters in its, at this point, it's reasonably, I can't see how, it actually kind of bugs me that it installs, it puts an icon when you install an app, and I couldn't see to turn it off. But again, I don't talk much about launchers because it's so easy to replace them. My recommendation would be Nova Launcher, but there's loads out there that you can use. The main stock one on this device isn't too bad, so that's entirely up to you if you want to change it or not. Not much else to say about the software because I don't think I had any bloat. So it is pretty stock, no real issues there. So the battery is 3000 milliamp hour Li-ion. In my hour-long test, which involves playing one of my videos, it's about 38 minutes, and then just repeatedly loading Twitter, basically, for the other 23 minutes, whatever, on a set screen brightness, so I get it to sort of 300 lumens, and then I run the test. So after an hour of that, it was still at 92%, which is actually pretty good. I mean, there's quite a bunch of phones, I think, on the 92% in my scoring. One of them was 94. I'm doing this off the top of my head. There might have been a 93, and there's a whole bunch of them at 92, and then loads more under. So that's up there with some of the better devices for only 3000 milliamp hour, and this is where I think the screen being only 720p really helps, because it's not as much work for the device to deal with. And actually, there were times it really impressed me. I'd take it off charge, and almost an hour later, I think it was still showing 100%. I wasn't generally using it much; it was just kind of sitting on a desk, but still, that seemed pretty good to me. So, I think at the end of the actual day of work or what have you, I think I was still only just below 70%. So generally, the battery was pretty good. Almost the strength of the device, I suppose. Hackability wise, there's not really much out there. I did have a look on XDA developers, and yeah, I mean, there's just really not much to mention. There was kind of a hack to get it to 8.1, but it's at 8.1 now anyway. I don't think there was a recovery. So yeah, don't get. I mean, it's pretty much stock Android, so that's quite often what people are trying to hack devices back to, and you're already there. So I guess it's not such a need really. So overall impressions of the device, I think for the price it's pretty good. So the screen, although 720p, actually I really like. It's a very nice screen. The colours look good. It's reasonably bright. It's reasonably sharp. The speakers, that's a big thing for me. Most mornings I'm listening to podcasts, or if I'm doing some chores in the kitchen or whatever, I listen to podcasts, and actually they sound really good on the Nokia 5. The camera is sort of, it's okay. It's okay to good, especially for the price. You could do a lot worse, but it was just too slow, and it's kind of weird. I should maybe have. Again, I apologise that I stopped using it. If I'd done the review after the few days I'd been using it, you would perhaps be able to see what I've been talking about. But actually, it's running reasonably smooth at the minute. And I think I have a friend that might have had this phone who said after a few months it really slowed down for him as well. So that's the big sort of issue, and you'll have to make your own mind up as to whether, like I say, I can't, unfortunately I'm not showing you what it can be like at the moment. Having said that, it is a really well built handset. I love it. The build quality is really good. It feels really good in the hand, and it does make me think that I want to try like higher end Nokia devices just to see what they really can do. If the build quality is like this and then you've got the performance, sounds like it's going to be sort of a winning phone basically. So I'll see if I can get hold of a higher end Nokia, and I'll be doing a review about that. So I'd love to hear your thoughts, especially if you've owned this device and you want to comment on the kind of the lag or lack of. Maybe you might say, no, I had it for a few months and it seemed fine. But to me, it just seems to gradually slow down the more things I installed on it and the more that I used it. But yeah, so let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. But for now, my name's Andy, and I'll catch you all again soon. Well done, and thank you for making it to the end of the video. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, you might want to click the little fellow that should hopefully appear about here to subscribe. You may also want to check out some of my other videos, which are going to appear somewhere there. Also come and have a look at my website, androidandy.uk. There is also a forum. Come and say hello on the forum if you've got any questions about things, or request me to review things, or anything else. Just come and have a chat on the forum.